Welcome.
Hello, Rebekah.
Come in. Great to see you.
Thank you for letting me stop by.
Yeah, welcome to my office.
Well, I would like to get to know you and your library just a little bit better through 50 questions.
Sounds good. Fire away.
The Marriott Library is gorgeous. When was it built?
The Marriott Library is so pretty. I remember coming here on my interview day and just thinking, I could definitely walk into this building every single day. It was built, I want to say this building was built in 1968, and then there was a significant expansion that they did in 1996, and then they did another huge remodel in 2009, I think to make it like retrofitted for earthquakes. But before that, there was a university library and it kind of popped around campus. I think it was in President's Circle originally, and then over where the Utah History Museum is. And then this ended up being like the final location of the library.
That's terrific. And how long have you worked at the Marriott Library?
I have been at the Marriott Library for 8.5 years now. I started in August 2013, but I've been in 3 different positions in my time at the Marriott Library. So I started off in a grant-funded position working for the Mountain West Digital Library, which was an incredible experience. I was an outreach librarian at the time, and I got to go all around the state and meet so many colleagues at different institutions that had digital collections. So I really loved that job, but it was a 12-month grant that expanded into 18 months. And then I was hired as the data management librarian here at the university for the social sciences and humanities, and then that kind of morphed into a digital humanities position. So I'm currently the digital matters librarian.
That's impressive, Rebekah. You are a digital matters librarian. What does a digital matters librarian do?
Well, I should probably explain what digital matters is. That might provide some context. So like I was saying, I was working in data management and getting an increasing amount of queries about doing digital humanities work. You know, people that were interested in doing things like text mining or topic modeling or GIS. But we really didn't have a curriculum around it. We didn't have a lot of services around it. But because I was the data management librarian for the humanities, people would come to me and ask, like, how do I do this type of thing? And this was back in 2015, 2016. So I started reaching out quite a bit to BYU, who has a robust Office of Digital Humanities, and picking their brain about how to do these different things, gaining familiarity with different methods that humanists might use when they're trying to work with technology. And at that same time, we were having colleges reach out to the library saying, you know, we're interested in digital scholarship, but we don't really, you know, maybe we could have a space where we're all doing this together. And so in 2016, the College of Humanities, the College of Fine Arts, the College of Architecture and Planning, and the Marriott Library joined together to create this digital scholarship space where people who work in arts and humanities and want to experiment with technology can have a space and a community where they work together, and of course, like the infrastructure they would need. So in 2018, my position officially became the Digital Matters Librarian in supporting that space, providing workshops and speakers and reading groups and community activities to keep bringing that group together, and fellowships and different things that help fund that research as well.
That's really amazing and cool. What is the hardest project you've worked on in your position?
Oof. So there are a lot of things we have wanted to do that, you know, we end up hitting some wall, like either a technological wall, or we don't have the experience to do it, or we don't have the funding to do it. And so sadly, there have been some projects where we're like, this would be so cool, but then it honestly just kind of gets a little too hard. One project that comes to mind that we keep talking about, and I feel like will happen at some point, is having a mechanical flower sculpture in the lab where we feed it air quality data, and on good air quality days, the flower will bloom, and on poor air quality days, the flower will wilt. We thought that would just be a really fun visual to see like what the air quality is in Salt Lake City at any given time. And I think that our director even went so far as to 3D print the sculpture, but then we just, and I believe we found a data source for it, but we never actually like made that project come to fruition. Maybe a difficult project that we did make come to fruition. So I don't want to make it sound like we're like this. I mean, we're not afraid to fail in the lab. We say that all the time. Things are not always going to work. But one thing we did that was challenging and really exciting that did work is our digital literacy workshop program. And I'm so proud of this because I really see it addressing a societal need of providing digital literacy instruction to people who are looking to become more digitally literate. We talk about that all the time, but trying to decide like what that term even meant, trying to figure out like what a curriculum would look like for that, who should teach it. That was really challenging, and it took a lot of heads in the conversation. But at this point, we're working with 4 different Utah school districts, and we're providing that digital literacy instruction to 7th through 12th grade teachers, and it seems to be expanding every year. So that's a really exciting and challenging thing we've done.
Well, as you know, my husband is a sculptor, so I would love to see that interactive flower sculpture come to pass.
It's going to happen at some point.
What Digital Matters project are you most proud of?
That's a really great question. I mean, I would also put the digital literacy workshops near the top of that. But another project I really loved was our Women's Exponent project that we worked on from about 2019 to 2021. We're always trying to find things in the lab that are really Utah specific. You know, we don't want to be a digital humanities space that could exist anywhere. So we're always looking for projects around things like, you know, Native peoples or water rights or things that are important in the state of Utah. So in 2019, we became aware of the 150th anniversary of women being the first to vote in the country. That was surprising to us. You know, you don't think of this as being like a really progressive place for women. And we thought, well, because there's this really important moment, we became aware of it because of Better Days 2020 and being reached out to by them. We thought we should do a digital project around women gaining the right to vote in Utah 150 years ago. And so we got a small group of people together from BYU and the University of Utah, and we thought, okay, well, what could be this project? And someone in the group knew that we had this amazing collection of historical women's newspapers that both BYU and U of U hold a significant portion of. Well, I think BYU has the entire run of it, but the Women's Exponent is the historical women's newspaper that ran in Utah. It was done by Utah for Utah women from 1872 to 1914. And you dive into these newspapers and it's just a glimpse of life in Utah and things that might seem unexpected. I mean, here are these polygamous women fighting for the right to vote, for universal women's education, being just surprisingly progressive and indeed like pioneering in that day and age. So that was an online collection. So the whole thing had been digitized, but it had been digitized in 2000. So none of the scans had like legible OCR where we could do any projects. So we worked to get the whole 6,800 pages redigitized so that the OCR was better. And then we created an online site where people can explore different themes of the Women's Exponent, like, you know, different legislation around voting rights, women and doctors. I learned so much about that during the course of the project. And then also, you know, we have a section of the site where people can do their own digital scholarship projects around the Exponent. So they can text mine the Exponent, they can visualize some of the places and names in the Exponent. So that's probably the project I'm most proud of after our time in the lab.
That is definitely a project to be proud of. Now, I know that you work with first-year students in the library's LEAP program. What do you like most about working with students in that program?
Yeah, I love everything about the LEAP program. I just think it's such an incredibly special program. The students, that self-select into LEAP are really motivated, bright students to begin with. But I think, you know, a lot of academic librarians know that library instruction can often be these one-shots where you go into a class and you get like 1 hour to introduce them to the library, the website, how to search the catalog, how to use our databases. And while that's really important information, there's so much more we could teach them about information literacy and digital literacy and evaluating information. So I think those one-shots feel a bit unsatisfying at times. LEAP is an opportunity to meet with the same group of students their freshman year in college, and you get 10 sessions with them. And, you know, it's a chance for them to learn like really good search techniques to find the information they need. They learn how to gain information literacy skills and critically evaluate information. And they also really learn how to use the library for academic success. So I feel like at the end of those 10 sessions, they're like equipped in a way that I wish all of our students were starting their 4-year, college experience. And also, I feel like I'm their librarian. Sometimes you go into a class and you have like a nice interaction, but my LEAP students are the ones that come back to the library year after year and stop by my office and say hi, or I'll see them in the hall and they'll say to their friend, "That's my librarian." And that's just not a feeling you get with, I think, typical library instruction.
That sounds like a really rewarding program to
It's
work
great.
with. Well, let's go see other parts of your library.
Yes, let's go. So this wouldn't be a place we could do our interview, but one of my favorite places in the library is this quiet reading room over on the other side of this public study space. It's just completely quiet. It looks out at the Ochre Mountains and the rooftop garden here at the Marriott Library. So it's one of the most peaceful places to study and work in the library.
Rebekah, tell us about this room and what's new at the Marriott Library.
Sure. Well, right now we're in the donor room, which is in the administration suite out on the 5th floor of the Marriott Library. And we came up here because we have this really gorgeous view, which I'm not sure if you can see, but we have this beautiful view of the Wasatch Mountains and our plaza where we have food trucks. And it's kind of fun just to see students, milling around down there the first week of school. I think you had asked what's new at the Marriott Library, and I think like so many libraries, we've been working really hard over the past 2 years to meet the needs of students or of our patrons in a pandemic, which has meant shifting, doing more library checkouts, more laptop checkouts, more hotspot checkouts, making sure that we can serve a lot of our students virtually, our students and staff and faculty. Some of the fun things we've been doing, we've really been expanding our virtual reality services. We now have VR classrooms and we're doing lots of workshops teaching people how to meet with others virtually, maybe in like conference rooms or, just moving beyond Zoom a little bit. We're also doing lots of podcast studios and one-button studios, so really helping people like meet their media creation needs and knowledge creation needs. And then, of course, just trying to do our normal meeting the needs of our students with having really great collections and wonderful spaces to study and just great service overall.
Terrific. How many books are housed in the entire Marriott Library?
I believe we have about 3.5 million books in the Marriott Library.
Wow.
And I want to say almost 2 million of those are housed in the ARC, which is our Automated Retrieval Center. That is an amazing robotic room that's 3.5 stories high, and the books are, sometimes they're off-site in other libraries. For ours, our books that are in compact storage are right here on site. So when someone needs a book and it's not in our stacks, a robot can go retrieve that book and have it to someone in about 10 to 15 minutes.
That's amazing. What's your favorite book?
Oh, gosh, I always feel like when people ask me that question, it's like asking me what my favorite child is. Like it's, it depends on the day, it depends on the year. When I was a child, my absolute favorite book was Gone with the Wind. And I'm kind of embarrassed to say this is the only book I have ever stolen from a library. But I got it from my junior high library and I loved it so much. I mean, it's 1,000 pages. I'm sure a lot of you have read it, but I breezed through it in like 3 days and then picked it up and read it again. And I don't think a year of my life went by for like 10 years where I didn't read Gone with the Wind at one point. And I remember the first time I saw the movie being really indignant if like Scarlett's dress was the wrong color in a particular scene. I loved that story. I did recently in the pandemic reread it, and it's interesting as you're an adult how problematic certain passages are. It really felt like visiting an old friend and seeing flaws in them that you didn't realize when you were a kid. So that was kind of interesting. But I've read a ton of amazing books in the pandemic. In the last couple of years, some that I've really loved include Between the World and Me, In an Instant. What are some of the great ones? Let me see, I actually wrote a couple down. Oh, Daisy Jones and the Six, The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, The Giver of Stars, Where the Crawdads Sing. So fiction is my genre. I absolutely love it. And then anything by Brene Brown. I just think that she's like the smartest, warmest, most wonderful person on the planet.
These are great ideas. What book are you reading now?
So right now I'm reading the book Station 11, which came out in 2012.
Okay.
Because there's a TV show on right now on HBO Max, Station 11, that's just incredible. So I thought, well, this is a really cool story about, it's about a pandemic. So if you don't want pandemic literature, this is not the book for you. But it's really about what makes the human spirit flourish after we've lost so much. So that did feel really relevant. And about the arts and humanities and the importance, after a civilizational collapse. So Station 11, the book, really good. Highly recommend.
Perfect. What's a book you plan on reading?
I just ordered this morning on Amazon Brené Brown's Atlas of the Heart, which just came out. And I think I was sort of waiting for the audiobook to come out next month because I love her voice and I love her. So I wanted Brené Brown to read me Atlas of the Heart, but I just couldn't wait. So I ordered the physical copy on Amazon today, and then I'll probably listen to it next month.
What's a book that has positively shaped you?
There's so many. I mean, I feel like who I am is shaped largely by all the books I've read my whole life. But one book, and I have 3 kids, so parenting is something like I think about a lot, and I read a lot of parenting books. And there was a book I read years ago called How to Talk So Kids Will Listen and Listen So Kids Will Talk. I'm not sure if you've ever read it before, but it just completely changed the way that I think about interacting with kids, and then by extension, the way I think about interacting with everybody. And so that was a book, again, I've read it again and again to just really absorb the information, and that's one I can say truly changed me. And I'm obnoxious that I tell every new parent, I'm like, this is the book you need to read.
Perfect. What's your favorite audiobook?
Oh, I mean, I love audiobooks. I feel like at this point in my life, I'm always multitasking. So audiobooks are great to walk around and listen to. I remember the first set of audiobooks I really loved were the Harry Potter series. I loved they had different actors playing the different roles. And so those were really well done. Nowadays, I think the audiobooks I appreciate the most are the ones where they really incorporate like things that you can't do on the printed page, like multimedia things and maybe like musical clips. I think Malcolm Gladwell does a really good job of that in his book, Talking to Strangers. And then other books I love, audiobooks, are where I feel like close in a way with the author, and I want to hear them tell the story to me. Someone like Glennon Doyle or Brené Brown, Maya Angelou, someone I really love. I want to hear them say their book. And then there's some authors that just have wonderful voices, like Clint Smith and How the Word Was Passed. Oh, he had the most beautiful voice, and I heard him on a podcast and thought, I'm definitely listening to his book on audiobook.
Perfect. What's your all-time favorite picture book that you've read with your children?
That is such a hard question. Even though I've read it a million times, I can't read Love You Forever without crying. So that's probably one. I mean, I love Where the Wild Things Are. I love anything by, John Klassen, Mo Willems. I mean, there's just so many amazing children's book. That is one of my favorite genres, actually. And I'm sort of like crying to think that there will be a day I don't have small children to read to, because my kids are 4 to 16 right now. So like the 4 and 6-year-old are still doing picture books. But I'm going to go with Love You Forever.
Okay, that's a good classic title. What's your favorite junior fiction book?
It's not so much my genre. I know a lot of people love YA and read a bunch of it. I don't. I wish I did. Maybe because I don't work in a public library, I'm not so exposed. But all the books I read with my 16-year-old as he was getting bigger, those always had a really a good place in my heart. Books like Hatchet, or of course the Harry Potter series. Wonder was one I really remember us loving together. And I mean, recently, so I don't read a lot of YA, but I did read The Hate U Give. And it was one of those books that I read all the way through and then picked it right back up and read it through again. I loved it so much. And it makes me really sad that sometimes I see that book on banned book lists, because it's just such an important book, and I think really brings those characters to life.
But yeah, I'm reading that right now,
really
and
good.
I think the same thing that you think. Why is this banned?
Yeah.
Because it's incredible. What's your favorite movie?
Probably ones that I've loved my whole life. I love The Sound of Music. I know every word to every song. I love It's a Wonderful Life. Probably more like modern movies. I love The Shawshank Redemption, Forrest Gump. I mean, there's just so many good movies out there, but those are a few.
If your life were a title, what would it be?
Oh man, I think this might be the hardest question. I really hope if I write a memoir, I have like an editor to help me with the title, because that's really tough. I I was thinking it'd be kind of fun to title the book, Why Won't They Just Let Me Read?
There you go.
That's like my whole life. I just feel like all I want to do is read, but then there's all these responsibilities overlaid.
That's right.
And then the other one I thought would be, if it was a more serious book, maybe A Librarian's Guide to Living Wild and Free.
Oh, I love that. What's your favorite band?
I think Death Cab for Cutie is my favorite band. I've seen them live like 10 times and I just love them. And now my teenager loves them too, and he saw them at the Hollywood Bowl last year, and it's like he gets it. And I sang him a lot of those songs when he was little, so I think it has like particular importance. And then we're also listening to AJR a bunch, and we're going to see him at see them at USANA this summer. So
that's great. What about a favorite solo artist?
Oh, Taylor Swift. Love
okay.
her. Forever and always.
How about a favorite TV show that's currently on?
I just mentioned it, but Station 11 is one that I'm just so sucked into every single episode. They drop every Thursday, and I think I've watched every episode twice before the next one comes out.
Okay. On a scale from 1 to 10, how excited about life are you right now?
In 2022, I think if we have a really narrow focus in on just my life, I would honestly probably give it a 9. And I am a really optimistic person. My life is really wonderful. My kids are happy and healthy and just amazing. I love my job. My friends are great. But then like, if you like broaden that lens out to the whole world, like a 4.
We are in a particular situation right now.
Yeah.
It's very challenging.
Yeah.
Okay, let's transition. iPhone or Android?
Oh, iPhone. Apple everything.
Favorite app?
Right now, it's an app called Clean Simple Eats, probably because it's January, and it's the new year, and I am really trying to eat super healthy. I've not done a good job of that during the pandemic. So Clean Simple Eats is this like Salt Lake City-based company that has these recipes that are all clean ingredients, really delicious, and like family friendly. So I'm like on that app like 100 times a day meal planning right now.
Okay, is that free?
No.
Okay.
It's $15 a month, but for me, it's well worth it.
Okay. Twitter or Instagram?
I'm going to go with Instagram for fun, Twitter for information, but both in moderation, or else I start feeling too inadequate or depressed.
What's your favorite restaurant in Salt Lake City?
Oh, there's so many good ones. I think I have really fond memories of eating at Cafe Molise downtown, and the rest is kind of a cool downstairs speakeasy, which has really great food and drinks as well. But I haven't eaten out much in the past 2 years, so I feel like I'm kind of rusty on answering that question.
Okay, favorite food?
Tacos.
Least favorite food?
Olives. I hate them.
Oh no.
I know. I don't know why,
no.
but it's like the one thing that when I try it, I just like want to gag.
Green olives?
No, and I love olive oil, but I just cannot do olives.
Okay, favorite drink?
I only drink 3 things. I drink tons of water, and I drink coffee and red wine. I really have a hard time picking between those 3. I'm gonna go with coffee.
Okay. Favorite dessert?
Warm chocolate brownies and vanilla ice cream.
Oh, that sounds so good. Weirdest thing you've ever eaten?
I thought it was really weird when we moved to Utah and had bison burgers. I thought that was strange. Now I'm realizing a lot of people do around here, but I was like, this is so interesting.
I've had bison stew and it was pretty good.
It is pretty good. Yeah, I mean, I'm like, why isn't this more popular outside of the Mountain West? It's delicious, and I think it's relatively healthy too. It's like a lean meat.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to a new favorite spot in the library.
Perfect. Absolutely, and actually, as we're walking here, this whole wall right here is actually a piece of public art. If you look closely at a lot of these tiles, they actually have Pioneer Diary inscriptions inside of them.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's also our ventilation system and functions as our grand staircase, but they've incorporated lots of beautiful public art into the staircase.
So Rebekah, tell us about this new location that we're at in the library.
Sure. So right now you're actually in something that's called protospace, which is where Digital Matters lives. And Digital Matters is the space where I work. But in protospace, we have the virtual reality, we have a gaming area, we have our one-button studios, we have a fabrication area, and then Digital Matters where we have like GIS. We're going to have a big visualization wall, and it's where we do our digital humanities work.
So this area looks really cool, and I would love to spend some time exploring in here. I want to transition to animals. I love animals. So what's your favorite, dogs or cats?
Dogs, definitely. We have a really cute Australian Shepherd named Stan.
What's your spirit animal?
Maybe like a penguin. I feel like they're really playful. They like outdoor snow sports, and they're very connected to their families.
Oh, that's appropriate. Best gift you've ever received?
That's a tough one. I'm really hard to shop for. I hate it because I don't want a ton of things. I just want like a few things I really love, and oftentimes gifts aren't like quite right. So sometimes I think everyone that loves me just gets me gift cards because I like to shop too. But recently, for Mother's Day last year, I think my husband and my kids just nailed it. They found this gold necklace that said, "There's no one in the world like you, and I like you just the way you are." Because they know I'm obsessed with Mr. Rogers and Daniel Tiger. So I actually just burst into tears when I saw it because it was so incredibly perfect.
Last gift you gave?
Well, we did just have the holidays, so I gave a lot of gifts. I think the one that was like the best received by the whole family was getting season passes to Lagoon, because we love Lagoon. It's like the only place we go that equally satisfies the 4-year-old and the 16-year-old and the parents. So I'm a really big fan of experience gifts as opposed to giving people like tangible things. So that one was a good one.
How about an author you want to have coffee with?
I'm gonna go with Jen Hatmaker. I just adore her, and I would love to have a conversation with her.
How about a historical figure that you would love to have coffee with?
Is Mr. Rogers historical enough?
Sure.
Sure, we'll go with him.
How do you like to have your coffee?
Oh, just black, no cream, no sugar, and in very large quantities.
Wow. What's your favorite board game?
My family board game that we always do is Aggravation. So when I think of like my perfect board game night, it's playing Aggravation with my family. If it's not with my family, Scrabble, because I love words. And yeah, that's one where my husband and I can usually kick butt.
Do you play Words with Friends?
I used to, but I haven't in a really long time.
What's your favorite country to visit?
Ooh, I haven't traveled nearly as much as I would like to. But probably my best trip ever was taking a trip to Australia with my son when he was 4. And we went and stayed with friends for 2 weeks, and we did all the stuff in Sydney and the surrounding areas, and it was just so beautiful.
Oh, I
and
love
special.
Sydney. What's a country you wish to visit?
Well, we were supposed to go to Finland during the pandemic, and that got canceled.
Shoot.
So Finland is still on my bucket list, and I'd love to see the Northern Lights and go visit friends there as well.
If you had one superpower, what would it be?
Whew. I'm gonna go with something a little bit more mundane than like flying or invisibility. I really wish I had endless energy. That like the way I feel the second I wake up is the way I felt all day until I went to bed, because I feel like that would help me accomplish all the things I actually want to do and can't ever seem to get to.
That would be nice. Hey, I'm a skier, and as a snowboarder and former snow sports sales representative, what board would you recommend for a librarian just learning to snowboard?
You did your homework.
I
loved
did.
it. So yeah, in a former life, I worked in sales for snowboard companies. I actually worked for a company called Signal Snowboards, which was a board company. But if you came into one of my shops when I was working in snowboard shops and you had never snowboarded, I would probably recommend looking for something, the right size, which is usually kind of nose to chin, but maybe on the lower end so that it's easier to maneuver. Something that's soft and again, easier to turn, not too stiff. The Burton Feel Good might be something to try, but just something that's not too big or too stiff that's just going to be difficult for a new person to learn. The worst thing when I worked at snowboard shops is that everyone would see a board with the graphic they like and just went straight for that, and instead of thinking about like the kind of snowboard that was right for them.
Okay, great advice. What is your favorite resort in Utah?
I do love them all, but Brighton is my favorite, and that's because kids ski free until 10.
Okay. What is your dream snowboard trip if you could go anywhere in the world?
Heliboarding in Alaska.
That would be amazing.
Full stop. That's where what I want to do.
Okay, I want to transition back to libraries. What was your first library job?
My very first library job was at the Huntington Beach Public Library, and it wasn't a librarian position. It was working, circulation. I did do some reference. I helped run the teen summer reading program, and I totally loved it. That was my one public library experience, and I've always wondered if someday maybe I'll find a way back to public libraries. But the way I started was kind of funny. I had worked in sales for 10 years, and I was looking to transition because my son was 4 and I was tired of traveling all the time. And I went to a career counselor at my undergrad, and she said, well, what do you like? And I said, well, I love books and I love people. And she said, have you ever thought about being a librarian? And that day I went to the Huntington Beach Public Library and started volunteering, and then got hired shortly thereafter.
Wow, I can tell you're a really good storyteller. When a teller position opens up in my library, may I call you?
Yes! Aren't we all looking for a reset right now? Like some kind of new career path?
That would be
I love
so
my
fun.
job, but man, do I miss public libraries. They are such an invigorating place to work.
What is your funniest library experience?
There are a lot. One thing that pops into my head, though, is when I first started working at the Marriott Library, I was working for the Mountain West Digital Library. And of course, like when you apply for a position, you try to be very serious and very scholarly and someone to reckon with. And I remember the first year I worked here, we were opening up the children's reading room at the Marriott Library, which is a wonderful space on the 3rd floor. I've used it quite a bit, especially when I'm on maternity leave. But I volunteered to be a balloon twister for that event because in another former life, I twisted balloons in college to get through. My sister owns the company, and so I still have some balloon twisting skills. So I volunteered to come in and twist balloons, and I remember everyone being so surprised, because I'd always been, very serious and very scholarly, and that one day I was just a clown working on the 3rd floor, but making kids very happy.
Oh, I love to twist balloons too.
Of course, I love it.
You are the 2018-2019 ULA Past-President. What is your most memorable memory?
That was a really great year. I think that the thing that stands out my most, though, the most powerful memory was fighting the EBSCO fight that year. That was the year where there were parents who demanded that EBSCO be taken down. They claimed they'd found pornographic material in it, and EBSCO actually was shut down for a month. And when that happened, and this was for the K through 12 EBSCO in Utah, when that happened, Utah librarians, we mobilized, we did a petition, we showed up to the school board meetings to provide testimony. Working very closely with Peter Bromberg, we created a strategy for, for showing up and protecting people's rights to information, students' right to information. And it just felt like that was really good work, and it made the things that we learn about in library school, our ethics and values, it really made it come to life in that experience.
Yes, I remember that time, and you did an incredible job.
I felt like we were totally learning as we went.
What was your biggest challenge?
I think as ULA president, my biggest challenge was trying to focus on one thing. You go into it thinking of all, and I'm sure, Rita, you probably have experienced this as well. You think, well, I could do this and I could do that. And it was actually Peter who said, you're in this position 1 year. Think about the thing that you want to accomplish the most and make that like your signature thing. So for me, that whole year, it was thinking about advocacy and how we could improve those efforts. And it's really gratifying that it wasn't just a 1 year thing, that the last few years it continues to grow, and like more librarians learn how to be effective advocates for the people making decisions.
Absolutely. You really left a wonderful legacy. What quote best describes your experience as a ULA president?
There is a quote, it's Edward Everett Hale who says, "I cannot do everything, but I can do something. And because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do the something that I can do."
Thank you, Rebekah. That is 50 questions.
Woo, we did it.
Well, time to hit the slopes and smash some trails. Thanks,
Let's go.
Rebekah.